On a cold December night in Chicago, the city's glow was just another backdrop for the routine of law enforcement. A set of flashing red and blue lights sliced through the darkness, pulling over a white sedan. The infraction was minor, an all-too-common sight in the modern age: a driver distracted by their phone. An officer from the Villa Park Police Department approached the vehicle, his flashlight beam cutting through the driver's side window. Inside, a woman wearing a red headscarf, later identified as Thompson, looked out with an air of annoyance. This encounter, starting from a simple traffic violation, was about to unravel into something far more complex, a single thread that, once pulled, would expose a tangled web of crime hidden just beneath the surface of a routine stop. The officer began with standard procedure, explaining that he had stopped her for using her phone while driving. He asked for her license and registration. The woman's initial responses were clipped and defensive. She questioned the stop itself, as if it were an unwarranted intrusion. The officer remained professional, calmly repeating his request. Her agitation was palpable. She held a lit cigarette, a small act of defiance in a situation where she held little control. The officer patiently asked her to put it down so they could proceed. After some reluctance, she was instructed to step out of the car. She was guided to the front of the patrol car, a standard measure to separate a driver from their vehicle during a roadside investigation. As she leaned against the bumper to stay warm, the officer began the process of verifying her identity, a step that would pivot the entire night in an unexpected direction. The officer took down the name and date of birth she provided, and returned to his patrol car to run the information through the system. A few moments later he returned with a new line of questioning. Her details had returned no results. He explained to her that there were only two possibilities for this. Either she had never been issued an ID, which he found unlikely, or the information she had given him was false.
Or you're not giving me a complete name. So, which one of it? I know you.
The simple traffic stop had now escalated. This was no longer about a moving violation. It was about obstruction and a false identity. The officer pressed her, explaining that they would eventually find out her real name, and that being truthful now would save everyone a great deal of time. Her silence and evasiveness only deepened the officer's suspicions. The atmosphere grew thick with unspoken questions. What was she hiding that was so serious she would risk lying to the police? While one officer continued to engage with the woman, his partner was busy inside the patrol car, digging deeper into the digital records. The vehicle's license plate was run, and the information that came back began to paint a much darker picture. A bulletin had been issued recently concerning thefts at a nearby mall. Security had reported at least 2 individuals stealing catalytic converters from the parking garage. The report included a vague description of a male and female pair, and a vehicle that bore a striking resemblance to the one currently stopped on the side of the road. Another piece of intelligence noted a call about a male and female arguing inside a similar car. The pieces were beginning to align, suggesting this was far from a random encounter. The investigation was now moving beyond the woman's false identity, and connecting her to active criminal cases. The scope of the night's events had widened dramatically. With this new information, the officer's approach became more serious and methodical. The pretense of a simple traffic violation was gone. They now had reason to believe they were dealing with more than just a dishonest driver. The decision was made to place her in custody. An officer approached her again, his tone now devoid of any leniency. He formally placed her under arrest.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer or have him or her present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements.
The recitation of her Miranda rights marked a definitive shift in her status from a detained driver to a criminal suspect. Immediately, the questioning changed. The officer asked her directly what she had taken from a store called Jules. This sudden specific question revealed that the police knew more than she realized. Her facade began to crumble under the weight of direct interrogation. The questioning became a focused inquiry into a retail theft. The officers asked about medications she had allegedly placed in a gift bag inside the store. They pressed her on whether she had the means to pay for the items when she entered. She claimed to have cash and a card, but her explanation for why she left without paying was convoluted. The officer patiently deconstructed her story, paraphrasing her own words back to her. He outlined a scenario where she may not have entered the store with the intent to steal, but saw an opportunity when the door was open, and decided to walk out without paying for the merchandise.
Did you have enough money on you to purchase those items if you needed to? Or is it just whatever's there?
On me, I can get it.
So I'm asking you if you had it when you walked into the store.
Faced with this logical breakdown of her actions, her resistance faded. She finally provided her true name, Timothy Fatherson. The officer seemed perplexed, wondering aloud why she would go through the trouble of lying and obstructing an investigation over what might have been a simple shoplifting charge, an act that had now magnified her legal troubles immensely. As Timothy was being processed, the officers turned their attention to the other occupant of the car, a man who had been sitting quietly on the curb throughout the entire ordeal. His situation introduced another layer of complexity. A check on his identity revealed that he was listed as a missing person with a known mental disability. This transformed the officer's duty from one of enforcement to one of care.
Long walk to Chicago anyway.
How about this, dude? So what we're gonna do is gonna get you to PD. You're in essentially protective custody. Let us figure out what's going on.
They spoke to him gently, trying to persuade him to come with them to the police department. They promised him warmth and a safe place to figure things out, assuring him he was not in any trouble. Their primary concern was his well-being, a stark contrast to the criminal investigation focused on Timothy. It was during this process that the final critical piece of the puzzle fell into place. A check on the car's VIN confirmed that the vehicle itself had been reported stolen.
Quick question. Are we good to just take this car back to the Sally Port and just search or take everything out of it there since it's reported stolen? So we're not just sitting out here emptying out this fucking car for the next 45 minutes.
The incident had now blossomed into a multifaceted case involving a stolen vehicle, retail theft, a false identity, and a vulnerable missing person. With the full picture now clear, the officers moved efficiently to resolve the situation on the roadside. A tow truck was called to impound the stolen car, a key piece of evidence. Timothy was searched, handcuffed, and placed securely in the back of a patrol car. An officer radioed in the official transport, stating he was bringing one adult female back to the station. The male companion, now under protective custody, was also prepared for transport in a separate vehicle. The flashing lights that had once signaled a minor traffic stop now illuminated the conclusion of a significant criminal apprehension. The scene was cleared, leaving only the quiet darkness of the Chicago street behind. The journey for Timothy was not over, it was just beginning a new, more somber chapter. The final scene took place within the sterile beige walls of an interrogation room at the police department. Timothy sat alone on a hard plastic chair, the red of her headscarf a single splash of color in the muted environment. The bravado and defiance she had shown on the roadside had evaporated, replaced by a quiet, nervous energy. She looked around the empty room, her gaze falling on the door, the walls and the single table before her. She stood up and walked to the door, perhaps out of habit or a faint hope, and tried the handle. It was locked. She returned to her chair and sat down, the reality of her confinement settling upon her.
Have you come with me? We'll go straight up that ramp.
The long night, which had started with the simple, careless act of looking at a phone, had ended here, in a small, quiet room, where she now had nothing but time to contemplate the series of choices that led her to this moment.